I made my plan. I was going to blow up the Masjid during Ramadan on Friday.
I was a fairly happy kid. I had friends. I liked to run the streets. In high school, I'd gotten in a lot of trouble.
These Muslims are trying to kill me. Everybody hates Muslims. That if I see a woman in a hijab, or if I see a man wearing sandals and he's dark skinned, don't trust him. Keep an eye on him. And even though I wanted to die, I wanted to hate somebody more. I wanted to hate somebody more. I didn't know if I needed to be closer or I needed, or if I was okay. But I sat over there, and the plan was to sit over there and wait.
Dial it in. Just watch it.
Weren't you afraid of the consequences of doing something like that?
I was going to make a big statement. Now, a lot of people think that's crazy on so many different levels, because how are you going to get away with that? I had no intention of getting away with it. I knew I was going to be caught. I knew I would go to trial because they would execute me. I was good with that because I wasn't getting my flag draped coffin, but I believed that eventually these same people were going to think of me as a hero, because I was right. So then I went into the mosque one day. I already done recon, and found the best place to put this and everything, with the knowledge that I had of explosives. And my daughter had told me about this Muslim child that she was in school with, and I blew up. So I thought I failed my family because I couldn't protect them. I can't protect her at school from these Muslims. That was my whole thing. I just totally lost it. And my daughter, 7 years old, is looking at me like I've just lost everything. And she was, the look in her eyes was like she was even questioning whether she even loved me anymore, because I was being so racist or so, against these one people just because they looked a certain way or they did a certain thing. That was it. After different profanities came out of my mouth and, calling them all kinds of racial slurs, I guess is the best way to put it, I went up into my bedroom. I kind of sat on the bed and I started to cry a little bit. I said, well, you have to find the proof, man. You're right. I believed in myself I was right, because they're evil. They want to kill us all, right? But I didn't have any kind of tangible proof to show my daughter. I didn't have that. So I had to go get it. Where am I going to get it? The mosque. Where else? I did not want to be in that place. So of course I'm a little nervous. I try to keep my composure. Obviously now, after I found out and heard from some of the people there that I didn't do a very good job at that, because they could tell I was nervous, I was frustrated, and I went in there, I met with them, and I introduced myself as somebody who just wants to learn a little bit more about Islam. Not a total lie, but didn't tell them what my real intentions were. So, I was introduced to several people, talked to several people. It was a Friday. Again, I went on Friday because I knew they'd be there. I listened to the sermon, the khutbah, right? And I was like, man, that sounds good. They're just saying that because I'm here. I already know. They probably got people held down in the basement for propaganda videos. I already know. I mean, these are the things that are going through my mind, right? And then they handed me a Quran. And I was told to take it home, read it, come back when you have questions. I was so happy because in my mind, I felt like I'd just been handed the holy grail of evil, and I'm going to have somebody explain it to me. Wow, that's better than hitting the lottery. I mean, isn't it? It take no effort on my part. So I did. I did just that. I read it, and I went back. I was back a lot. Surprised him, because here's this non-Muslim coming in. He's all in here all the time. I've been reading. I got these questions. You say come back and ask you. And after a while, it finally came to me that all religions have some sort of a text. And that text is a guidebook to how they're supposed to live their lives, right? To direct them in the certain direction, right? And you're to live as close to that as you can. So I'm reading the things in the Quran. And my impression of Islam is the people that have been shooting at me and seeing all the horrible things that they were doing, right? It didn't match. But these people in here in Muncie, Indiana, were actually, I could make examples of things that they were doing that was in the Quran to do. So they are and they aren't. Never been called an intellectual person, but a light bulb came on. Obviously, the ones who I had gotten my impression of Islam from we're a bad example. That's not Islam. This is more like Islam. So I started to change a little bit. But then I went through stages. Maybe these are the good Muslims. I've heard there's some good Muslims. Maybe these are the ones. Maybe these are the good ones. And as I'm getting introduced to other Muslims and doing research and looking online and watching both good and bad YouTube videos, because back then they still had the real bad ones, and watching this and comparing it with what's in the scripture here, all those bad videos, they come from a place of hate. There's no relevance to what is in the book and what they're saying. There's no relevance. Oh, man. So I just kept reading and kept reading. My ill feelings started to slowly dissipate. They just went away. And, I get to certain passages in the Quran, like 532, kill one human being is as if you had killed all of humanity. No. Indiscriminate killing was going on by these people that I had taken my impression of Islam. Wow. Okay. Keep reading. And then, get to certain other passages. Allah made us into different nations and tribes so that we may learn from one another, not despise one another. Oh, okay. I can see that right here because this person is involved with local government and Rotary Club and all these other organizations. Oh, okay. I get that. So it started to all go this way.
So what was the main thing that convinced you that Islam is 100% the truth?
Yeah, so I realized that Islam was really the thing for me through my readings of the Quran and the explanations I got. And I didn't take their word for it. Now, when they would tell me that's what this means, I would go back and I'd research it. So reading the Quran and having the feeling that it is touching me. It is I'm reading these words, but I'm feeling them too.
So when did you actually say, I have to become a Muslim?
The dreams I had with the blood on the paper target. I was on the rifle range, where you practice shooting, okay? And I was shooting a paper target way down there. And it had been a source of looking at my enemies, dehumanization, right? I was dehumanizing my enemies because they were just targets. That was one way of coping with the whole taking of human life, right? And I remember one of the last dreams I had was this paper target started bleeding. I went down and wiped it off. It kept bleeding and kept bleeding and bleeding. And it was at that point I decided I need to be a Muslim because now I see my humanity is coming back. I didn't have humanity for a long time. I didn't even know what it was. It came back. And I saw Islam and the teachings from Allah and the examples given by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It gives me something. It gives me an understanding of who, what, when, where, and why. It answered those questions for me, man. And I couldn't have been happier. It was the best decision I've made as an adult.
And when you decided to take Shahada, where did you go first?
Yeah. So this is a funny story. So this whole picture of a lot of Christians throughout the years have had this belief that, if Muslims capture you, they're going to hold a sword to your throat and tell you to convert or they're going to kill you, right? I go back to the Islamic Center on a Friday and I meet two guys, two of the original guys that I was introduced to that I'd gotten kind of built a relationship with now. And I went up to them and I says, hey, I want to take Shahada. True story. They're standing side by side. They look at each other. They look back at me. Simultaneously, they go, no. True story. Oh, my gosh. And I was blown away. I was like, what do you mean no? They said, brother, you got more to learn. So they look back at each other. They look back to me. All right, come on. True story.